So I want to welcome you all today to a Time for Truth show, a very special edition for Mr. L. Ron Hubbard's birthday. And we have a very special guest, retired Harlem Globetrotter Robert Z. Hunter, who actually met with L. Ron Hubbard back in his playing days. So I want to welcome Mr. Robert Z. Hunter to our show. Engineer, please put him on the show.
Hey, Dr. Ben, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, Mr. Z?
Oh, not bad.
You're looking good.
Why, thank you.
You're quite welcome. So you have a very interesting story. Mr. Hubbard's birthday is coming up now in March, and I want the viewers to hear the story of how you met Mr. L. Ron Hubbard.
Oh, you mean Ray Milan? Well, we were in England, and this gentleman came in, and someone shouted out Ray Milan. I said, "Yeah, look at that hat." But it was Hubbard, and what it was he was friends with Meadowlark, and he came to see Meadowlark. But Hubbard and I got to talking about Stagecoach West with John Wayne, and I was surprised of his Western knowledge. And the other is he kind of tricked me because he knew Hoot Gibson, one of my favorite movie stars that nobody knows. Found out that, they were from the same town. There in, pretty close there in Nebraska. But Hubbard and I talked about the Native American, which he was very powerfully connected with because he had some blood brothers that were Indians. They allow me to call them Indians, so I'll say that. And they were, he knew an awful lot about the language and about their tradition. And he was like I, very hurt that we could not rectify the position that they were in. But at that time, he was planning a trip to Africa. He said he would start his universal plan in Africa, and if it worked in Africa, it would work for the Native Americans. I didn't know all that he was talking about. I just knew his Western civilization knowledge, and also the knowledge he had about West books. And I didn't know that he had wrote Western books. I did ask him, though, was there ever a movie made by any of his books? But the point was, he was going to settle world peace by settling Africa. So, oddly enough, we kept talking and talking, and he said that Medlock would someday be a minister. Boy, did we laugh. And he said something about Curly. I can't remember what it was. And I think he gave Curly a cis. I didn't know what a cis was at that time. But he said that I would be president of the Globetrotters. Everybody fell on the floor. I mean, I started laughing. A couple of years later, I was president of the Globetrotters. I started thinking about Hubbard then. And then a couple of years later, Medlock was a minister. Boy, that was crazy. But I didn't really find out who Hubbard was till the 80s. And I was going by a Scientology church in Harlem on the east side, and I saw some friends in there. And when I went in there, I saw Hubbard, and I said, "Ray Milan." They said, "No, L. Ron Hubbard." So then we exchanged conversation, and I was there. I kept coming back the whole week, and they told me who L. Ron Hubbard was and what he meant to this world. And then I started comparing things that he told me at that time. And it was a fascinating journey. I have a basketball for L. Ron Hubbard. Matter of fact, I have a jersey for him. But he already has a basketball. We gave him one there in Europe. Medlock left with him, and they went somewhere in England. Medlock came back and said he was at a palace.
Uh-huh.
So I guess that was the facility there where everybody goes every October in England. Elrod had quite an effect. He thought that the Globetrotters could help change communities and that Medlock could be a minister, ambassador for peace.
On the screen in the Globetrotter uniform. And the place that you mentioned, Bobby, in England would be St. Hill Manor, which was his home in East Grinstead, Sussex. Beautiful place. Looks like a little castle, manor house, beautiful lawn. Sounds like where probably Curly went to. And great stories. I was going to ask you, I know that you wanted, out of gratitude for all he's done, because I know the Globetrotters, Humanitarian, and you were doing so many things with the homeless, you know, with Drug Free World, with the educational programs you run, the Each One Teach One. I know that you have a gift that you wanted to give Mr. Hubbard for his birthday. And so, engineer, if we can put Mr. Hunter back on. And I think he has a ball that he's going to actually be giving, and he's going to autograph. So let's put him on. There you are. So this is the ball for Mr. Hubbard.
Yeah. The last one he had was a dirty leather ball that we were playing with in England. So here you go, Hub.
That sounds
Happy
beautiful.
birthday.
That sounds beautiful. What are you going to write on there for him?
Maybe to tell him that I'm going to Africa as he planned. And when Dr. Ben called me one night, he said, I want you to be ambassador and go to Africa. It scared me because it was the same way that Hubbard said it to me. And I said yes right away. And it turns out I will be going to Africa helping with land, people, and a form of freedom.
And it seems like that's what you've always done.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I want to thank you for coming on the show, and for all you do, because you do so many different projects. And L. Ron Hubbard was such a prolific human being, did so many things for humanity. So it's appropriate that you would be able to tell this story tonight. And for the viewers, you know, we want to wish L. Ron Hubbard a very happy birthday, and for all of the different gifts he gave to mankind, including Dianetics, Scientology, all the different campaigns, humanitarian-wise, for education, for businesses. We could go on in music and theater and navigation, and we could go on, so many different professions and talents that he had. So, Mr. Hunter, you know, Bobby, before we sign off tonight, is there any message or anything you want to end off with for tonight for Mr. Hubbard?
Well, we're going to continue the fight, and someday we will bring it back, and we will have peace for the Native Americans as we're trying to make peace for everyone else in the world.
Amen to that. Thank you for being on the show, and thank you for tuning in, and may you have a very good year.
Remember, let's march on, and religion, health, and wealth.
Amen to that too. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Good night.